Okay, let's bring in the man they call the Chief, Matt O'Keefe. How you doing, man?
I'm good, guys. How are you guys doing? It's great to be with you.
We're doing great. We're doing great. Exciting news that you guys just announced recently, a couple days ago. The West Coast Classic is moving to Vegas. Why was that choice made?
Simply just to have as much freedom as we possibly could to operate the event. I think, we looked it was probably 2 months ago at restrictions. And, obviously California, traditionally throughout the last year being one of the more stringent states, and a lot of question marks around the venue and our ability to have fans and how we'd be able to operate. And we just threw the towel in and said, we got to find a place that we're assured to, at a minimum, be able to operate the event for the athletes. Obviously, if you look at even a couple months ago, we were still sort of, tossing the ball in the air, wondering, if we'd even be able to have live events, right? So that was like the first stage of it. And then quickly after visiting Vegas and, meeting with the county and the city, it was very apparent that, we would be able to, have some level of attendance from a fan perspective. So that was exciting for us. And that, serving the athletes and the community is the primary goal of those events. And so it was a no-brainer.
Yeah. And so you guys announced at the Orleans Arena, correct?
Yes.
What was the decision process like picking a specific venue? Because Vegas, if anyone is unfamiliar, has never been there, is very much designed to be a hospitality driven place. And there's a variety of places you could potentially host something there.
Yeah, it's a great question, because we looked at probably 20 or so venues there. It was just the best fit, honestly, for a sporting event of our size. It's a really intimate arena, hosts a minor league hockey team. It's a really modern, nice new arena. They just had a couple of the NCAA basketball tournaments. We were there during, that week. And it just made a lot of sense. I mean, I think attendance is like 5,500, capacity. It's kind of like what I would describe as a bandbox. Like if we put 5,500 people in there, it'll be rowdy and loud. It's contained. It's fit. It gives us a nice feel for history, like a regional setting. It just made a lot of sense. It's off the strip, which I thought was a really good opportunity to sort of, have the chaos and the allure of the strip nearby, but be a little off. So there was parking. It was easily accessible for those that might be coming in for the day. I can't wait for people to see and experience it. The arena is awesome. It's perfect for what we do.
Fun fact. In college, our year-end basketball tourney for our conference was held at that arena every year, and absolutely loved it. So I've got some fond memories in that arena.
You got a lot of Vegas memories.
Oh man, I do.
Don't we all?
A lot of Vegas not memories, I think. What kind of restrictions are you working with as far as attendance goes?
Today we know we can have 50% attendance. We're trying to, there's been some cool things that have happened nationally that are starting to point towards more, right? In Texas, they had 40,000 attendees at a baseball game. The UFC packed an arena in Florida last week for that fight card last Saturday night. And, Vegas, UFC is selling out the downtown arena, the T-Mobile, for an event June 10th without clearance yet. But they've been given, good, information from the county that they will, most likely be able to fill that arena. So, today 50%, but we're cautiously optimistic that number is going to move, probably getting more of a go ahead towards that June 1 mark to be fully at capacity if we would like to be.
We talked about this a little bit beforehand, just kind of getting dipped into chaos again with events and stuff like that. But I know particularly last season when the WCC was announced, maybe even a year and a half ago, as a sanctioned event, as a part of the season, there was a lot of excitement around this because CrossFit is a California-based company and the sport was birthed in California. So what does it mean, I guess, for you guys as a company to finally be able to actually potentially have this massive event that I think everyone has been kind of anxiously awaiting for the past probably 18 months now?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I mean, I don't know, if people really remember March last year, clearly, but we were probably the recipient of the most pain on the event side. We were about to go a week later. And there's a lot of, really disappointed people, including ourselves. That event, this isn't, your sort of like, fish story, but it was primed to be a massive success for the community. The attendance, the tickets were sold near to capacity. It was, and we're coming back to California, right? We were just so pumped, historic venue, to be able to bring this to life. And again, we're still a little bummed that this year we're not going to be able to allow, we're very intent on having a multi-division approach, masters and, all levels of athletes. And we're not going to be able to do that this year, but to be able to, host and start the process to getting back to that. I mean, I can't explain how excited I am. I was talking to you guys before we came live. I have a new level of gratitude for being busy. I think, we all kind of got caught up in our routines in the past, and you might lament that at times, like, it's chaos again, and it's welcomed. And I'm like so pumped, in particularly for this event. It's going to be amazing. And I'm really excited to just get this started, so people can experience it and get started for, what I hope will be a historical, spot on the schedule every year.
What has the last year been like for you and your company that is built around holding live events?
Great question. Chaos. One word, right? It's been, man, I feel like I've grown a lot in the last year. We've lived by the, please, back in March, we lived in the day, and we were trying to, we were rebudgeting and reforecasting on a daily basis. Things were changing and moving, and there was hope and then disappointment often throughout the year. And, it was, we reinvented ourselves in a lot of ways. We're really gritty, worked a lot on, digital things with, partners and brands on the marketing side. It's been an interesting year, to say the least. I'm so proud of our team and us as an organization, because I think if you looked at us on paper, especially in our ecosystem, I think that a lot of people would have looked at like, dead in the water. And we were able to get through it. I think, we have a lot of partners that supported us through this. We're, kind enough to support and look at what this year might look like and forward invest in that with us. And it's, it's been interesting. Like I said, I think we've all grown a lot, but I'm proud we're here, and, things are great, and we're ready to go. I mean, we do concerts, as, a lot of people know, like those are starting to come back, and, things are looking up. And, obviously events are probably the last to come back as we sort of evolve back into normal life. But what we've found and learned through particularly the music business, because we've done some live stuff, within the last 6 months, that people are like pining to be back in groups and gathering. Like they were literally like, we are on the receiving end of a lot of email and reach out, like, especially our community, I think will be, particularly gritty around being together in groups sooner than most. But people are ready, and ready to go, and we're ready to plan some amazing experiences for them. So yeah, it's been a tough year, but a good year. We've learned a lot, and we've survived, and we're ready to go.
As far as the kind of lessons learned over the past year, I know that it's kind of forced a lot of us to reevaluate how we do things and create different, almost safeguards or fail safes to, protect us against the craziness that has happened. I'm curious if there's anything that that has become very commonplace as far as what you've put into practice as a company that's been kind of surprising, something you didn't expect, or something that you're like, oh, I didn't think this would become a part of our routine or our approach that, now is something you can foresee being used going forward.
Yeah, it's such a good question. I think, because, naturally when you have, it's not failure when you have, a rough patch or, interesting, situations come up that you don't necessarily have an answer to. It's just, there's not much, it's out of your control, right? How can I better prepare for those things? it's hard to prepare for what we experienced really in the grand scheme of things. You're collecting ticketing and people are registering. It's planning, right? There's just, unfortunately, in the event business, there's certainly ways to be safer on timelines, but honestly, like, there's not much you can do about it. Like what happened last year, I think a lot of us can look back at and say, on the event side, I mean, come on, look at what we were talking about a week before that event. It's like, COVID was barely a thing at what, it wasn't even a thing at Whatapaluza, which was 2 weeks prior, right? And so it's hard to plan. I mean, obviously on the business side, how you contract venues, and how that contract would work in a scenario like this are things that we're spending a lot more time legally on, just to make sure that they, because there's certain contract language that's come up and come into play that I think a lot of us historically would have been like, whatever, like that's never going to happen, But from an event perspective, it's like it's a natural disaster, right? Like you can't really plan for it. It's something that literally, I think I would say this though. I think we all, in general, have to pay a little more attention to things like this that are occurring around the globe, and not just be so naive.
Mm-hmm.
I was, particularly when it came to West Coast Classic, very stubborn, and we're going, and I think it was a Monday, we're going, and on a Tuesday I'm saying we're not going. So I learned. Yeah, I think you pretty much probably got that. Like, I'll see you in San Diego this weekend. But it just, I mean, that I've learned a lot from that. Like, I think we need to, pay closer attention to the wind and which way it's blowing. But other than that, man, it's really hard to plan for stuff like that. It's just, some things are just out of your control.
Now that we have a season structure that is different than it has been over the past 2 years with CrossFit, and it seems like some impending consistency with that, where does Loudoun Live fit into that whole ecosystem now?
Yeah, it's really exciting. We have a couple semifinal events, which are West Coast Classic and Granite Games, and we're excited to be a part of that and grow with that. As that evolves and events are added, we'll look for opportunities to be more involved. We'll have events like Whatapaluza, particularly, will be outside the system. But I mean, I don't think that means not a part of the system. I mean, it's essentially an event that contributes to the community, and we'll look for unique ways to partner. Mm-hmm. TBD, but I mean, like, we're really proud and excited about getting through this year as a full season for the community to sort of understand how we'll operate moving forward, some consistency. It'll be really good for this to be how we operate, and then the same to be next year, right? We haven't had that for a while, so it'll be great to have a structure that we're all now understanding, because I there's been some confusion, which is understandable, right? It's new again, and what are quarterfinals? How does it feed? What's the semifinal? Like, I think once people get through a cycle, they'll understand it. It'll be great to be back doing that same thing again next year in 22. It's interesting, I'm here in Madison. We're doing some work around the games, and the crew has all been here from CrossFit, and it's what somebody from CrossFit last night was saying. It's incredible, what a ride this has been, and people are still here, because it's been frustrating for everybody, and we understand it, whether it's a fan or an athlete or a brand. But it's kind of incredible that everybody's still here fighting for it and wants it. And I think when we get through a cycle and see how it looks, and then it's consistent again, I think it's going to be awesome.
Mm-hmm. One thing I'm kind of curious about, because before the announcement of the new venue, you also other CrossFit associated licensed events like the Madrid CrossFit Championship. There's some announcements around that. The Ciudad Real announcement in terms of location. That was actually an event I was particularly excited about, because there was some experimental stuff going on as far as competition structure and the way that it was going to be oriented last season, with some really cool team emphasis and some cool team prizes. Already there's been some announcements around divisions like masters and stuff like that. But is that something that you're going to keep kind of interwoven into the fabric of that particular event?
Yeah, it'll be, I think we felt a responsibility to be present with that event this year, even not being a part of the competitive season. We have a
Mhm.
great individual partner that operates the event in the market, Alfonso Chamorro. He's been a part of the CrossFit ecosystem for years. He's helped with regionals, and he felt strongly about operating in the hopes that we can possibly bring that in the part of something more moving forward as there's expansion. But I think whether that happens or not, after spending a lot of time in that market last year, digging in with that community, it deserves something significant. A championship or an event that celebrates it in market. And
Mhm.
people are really excited about that. So whether that lives as a community event, not necessarily competitively focused, for the sports season or the way it is now is TBD. But we're really excited about, again, just like West Coast Classic having been something we established in the hopes of operating to actually, bring that to life and operate it. And, I think, Spain, I mean, if for those who, it's got a lot of history with our sport. And it's such a cool community, and they love to get out, compete, and be on a floor. So I'm pumped for that. So we'll see where that goes. But I mean, we've looked really hard at kind of like what do we do with that? Like we're going to, unfortunately not operate our Mexican event anymore. That event just isn't going to work with a lot of the other stuff we have going on. But that particular event, Alfonso was bullish, and um, we spent a lot of time there, and we're really excited about the market. It's just such a thriving CrossFit competitive market. It deserves it, and we're excited to be a part of it.
Competition beyond the games is kind of this beautiful mystery. We know stuff is going to happen. We just don't know exactly how it's all going to look. How do you see that, for lack of a better term, off-season schedule evolving?
Yeah, it's such a great question. I think it's been a little bit of whack-a-mole really for the last few months, trying to like get this new system established and what it meant to what we were doing, particularly in others. And we haven't had a lot of really big conversations about, what does Wadapalooza mean to the sport and the system? I do know one thing that, that event is going to be in January every year, no matter what. We feel a huge responsibility to the community, and we would love it to be a significant, portion and position within, the ecosystem, the sport, and how it functions. But we want to, we will continue to focus on the community, our partners, volunteers. There's just so many people that is, a massive focus of their year. That no matter what it is or isn't, it will always, be Wadapalooza the way it was before. We want to continue to build and grow an earning platform for professional athletes, whether it's, a contributor to what their season is or not, so we'll continue to try to grow that. We've talked a little bit about this behind our walls, and it can be public. We're trying to grow the event too, and offer it further to other disciplines, whether it's strongman or weightlifting, powerlifting. We really feel that event, from a fitness, health, and wellness training perspective, needs to be broadened, and more people need to be given access. It was always intended to be this really inclusive event that became exclusive because so many people want access to the floor. So we're looking at ways to occupy more space in the city, and offer more opportunity for people to get on the floor. But yeah, I mean, on the sports side, the season, how it works into this calendar, I don't know yet. Honestly, I think that those conversations are still, on the table and need to be had. I just, I know today, we'll be there, and hopefully you guys will with us, and we'll throw a big party in Miami, and it should be awesome.
And I have yet to go to that event. I hear nothing but good things about it, and fingers crossed, man. I think we could all use a little bash in Miami.
I'm gonna hold you accountable this year. You are coming to
I
that
really
event.
want to make it.
Oh yeah, I love it. Fun fact: the WCC tournament still held there, and coincidentally, same initials, right? WCC.
So there you
West
go.
Coast Classic. West
You're
Coast
just
Conference.
tying all these threads
Yeah.
together.
Yes.
All my worlds colliding. As far as like West Coast and Granite Games are concerned, really those are going to be two of the first live events for fitness in the CrossFit space, along with Torian Pro, that people have been to in well over a year. So I'm curious, what are some things that you guys are focused on as far as spectator experience is concerned? And is there anything that you can tell us now about what the people attending can expect from that end?
Yeah, we want a safe environment first, right? Like we want people to feel comfortable to come. We're not, going to be cowboys. And, I loved, I love what the UFC did. I just don't have that same, mentality of like, wear a mask if you want to wear a mask, don't if you don't. Like, I mean, I think there's certain, if you don't want to come out, don't come out. If you want to come out kind of mentality. But I think we need to be very respectful, and make sure that we build a safe environment for everybody that's attending. And some people will still have some caution around it. So, we have to, inch in towards, how many people we put in that building. Mm-hmm. And make sure it's done mindfully, not just look at like, wow, we can have full capacity, let's do it, right? We want to just make sure that's done right and that there's measures in place so that people feel safe. And, listen, people should be excited. They're going to get an experience that they've probably been waiting for a long time. I mean, it's going to be very similar look and feel to, how people experience regionals. Traditional, 3-day weekend, all the best athletes in the world on the floor, competing for something big. It's great, and I think the workouts will be very, traditional to that. So I'm pumped. I think people will have a very similar experience, particularly this year with our events, to what they might have experienced from a regionals perspective. And as we evolve back to normal life, we'll look for those events to be mass participation. That's our platform. That's our why, really, is, building a more inclusive platform for more people to get on the floor. But this year you'll look, at these things and get a very similar feel to what you experienced at regionals.
CrossFit has been working with all the semifinal events. What has their input level been with your events? Where are they kind of hands-on, and where are they just turning things over to you and saying, hey, just do what you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, they've been great about sharing, best practices, which is great, right? We all have a lot of different experience. We've not collaborated a lot traditionally throughout the years. It's good to see we do some things great, and we've learned some things from each other. So there's been a lot of collaboration on that, systems and processes. And there's been a lot of autonomy. I mean, they want us to run our events, and be, sound to, what the culture and, of the event is, and be on brand for our event from a programming perspective. I think a lot of people on the outside might look at it and say, yeah, sure, I'm sure they're just telling you what the programming is. We've had zero direction from them on that, in a good way. Like, they've just, asked us to share. They're concerned about safety, and, they're helping us with logistics when an event might need it. But they've been great on that side. Like, these events will be programmed by the events. And, they'll obviously give us some great input that I think is welcomed. But yeah, I mean, it's been great so far. I think it's, again, a big, it's a big step. It's a different place for, for them to be in, where they're not operating the event. And I think they've done a good job of it so far. They've, inserted themselves as a big support system for everybody to hopefully, execute successfully. It's sad that a lot of events aren't going to be able to go live. And, I think we're all bummed, including CrossFit, about that. But, those of us that are going live have had a lot of support from those guys on, again, best practices, and things look great so far. We'll see. We'll talk about it when we're done executing, but everything's been great so far.
And speaking of, collaboration and working in unison, you are currently in America's Dairyland, the Badger state of Wisconsin, where you've been out in Madison, kind of checking things out. What's been the focus of that trip so far, and how are things going on that end?
It's been awesome. We were at a affiliate gathering last night, and it's been amazing to be back here. I'll tell you, like, it's you just like we were at the Alliant Energy Center the last couple of days, and it's like you're just getting that vibe, back, and it's like, wow, this is happening this year. And we're here supporting Noble, with helping with their experience and the execution on site for their store and all that stuff and athlete check-in. But I'm getting pumped up, and it's been great. Like, everybody has a pop in their step. Dave's like giddy. It's been really cool, honestly. I cannot wait for people to be here this year. It's the games were uniquely amazing this last year. I'm very grateful I got to experience it with Matt. But it was different, and I think that will be really cool to look back historically. But, being back with fans in the community at this venue, I'm ready. And I think everybody is.
You've had a lot of experience with Noble, and I think a lot of people in the CrossFit space are just getting introduced to them because of the title sponsorship. But why are they the right company to take this over right now?
I mean, it could not be a more perfect fit. I thought that, right away as this was coming up, and there was an opportunity for a new partner to title the games. They're born in our community. They're a big part of the fabric of our community, and and they have been for so long. And they've been on the outside, but they've always contributed. And they build products for us, by us, and it's such a cool endemic success story. And they're so bullish on the sport and the future of the sport. That is one of the pieces that makes it the most perfect fit. Like, they are ready to and are going to double down on the sport and help it grow. And they see the vision for it over the next 10 to 20 years. It gets me really excited. I think there would have been a lot of nice fits, but this was the perfect fit.
One thing you kind of mentioned, last year being unique alongside Matt. One thing that's different this year is, for probably the first time, really, you won't have Matt Fraser, there competing as, someone that you support and someone that is very close to you. So I'm curious, how much less stressed are you going to be this year without Matt Fraser competing?
I don't know. He might be more of a handful attending the event and having to do appearances than he is actually, but in competition. It's funny. I've been getting a lot of it lately. I mean, I don't know. It'll be interesting. This work that we're doing is going to be intense. It's going to be different. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it was a good time for Matt. Like, it was, I'm really proud of him retiring on his terms. I don't have any regret or wow, but what if one more year? Will I miss it? Yes. But not, regret it. It's been the ride of a lifetime, and I always with him, and we talked about it every year, made sure that we were super present. We're grateful for our experience together and what he was accomplishing. And, I'm looking forward to what this year is like. I'm not, stressed. My stress isn't the right word. I'm not lamenting that I won't be in the back with the athletes. Like, I did that with the greatest of all time for a long time. And it's time for the next chapter, and so it'll be fun. It'll be a different kind of stress because I'm helping some friends and a brand, and I do think on the front end, fun to say, I said that in a little bit of funny way. It'll probably be a unique experience with him that will have some stress involved in it. He's not, he's in complete control on the floor. He's prepared for that. Like, people don't realize how prepared he always was, to the point where there was not as much stress as you would think. For me, it would be stress that, I want him to accomplish his goals and, not have things come up out of his control. But the way he trained and prepared, there was he was, obviously, and we watched it, he was in control of his destiny. And there was a lot of calm with him on a competition floor that won't be present this year because, he'll be off and, out in the vendor village doing appearances. So that brings a different kind of stress.
Yeah. You talked about a little while ago, the professionalization of the sport and providing more opportunities for athletes to make money. We've had conversations with people about that. We had an interview with Brooks Lake where he put a bunch of ideas out there. And I know you've been involved in this process for a while, but what do you think needs to happen in the like right now, in order to get us on that path to where there is more of an opportunity for athletes to make a living at this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think the process has, evolved even since probably the time we've talked, right? Like, I think, I think we need to continue to, as an ecosystem, support event platforms to thrive, opportunities for athletes to earn, look at, how athletes feed the system, continue to support, you know, non-competitively, whether it's CrossFit, independently on their own, or us as events, or other events, help brands have a cohesive experience so that they have a positive experience and an ROI from their investment in events and space and the athletes. It is evolving. I think, the goal for me, or, what I would love to see, is a deeper platform for earning for athletes for their results on the floor, which is, I know what the goal is for CrossFit as well. We've talked a lot about it. I've talked with Eric quite a bit about it. And there's an obvious evolution to that. But it's, continuing to be, pointed in that same north, with those that support the ecosystem, and helping them get the proper return from, how they invest in the space, brands particularly, because they're going to help that thrive and they're going to help that grow, and not, be, super competitive in how that looks and who's involved with what. We're getting there. I think as we look at this calendar and how it plays out, some of that stuff that might happen, outside of the system and how that's supported, I think that'll be key to that too, right? Because those are really intense earning platforms for these kids, and continuing to build this, 12-month look at, their opportunity to be able to be on floors and earn. The more they're present, and the more eyeballs that are on them as professional athletes, the more that they can earn.
I'm curious, kind of almost the inverse of that a little bit, is the obstacles, and potentially even the unforeseen ones that maybe stand in the way. What do you see as maybe the biggest hurdles to get over? Things that maybe we don't do well enough as a sport that eventually we have to kind of not ignore?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, I think that's a deep question, Tommy, but I'd say that, I think that how we treat the, I guess you could say touring athlete, but like that super, we call them like, elite and then super elite, but like these sort of legacy players that have earned their spot. I think, allowing platforms for, sort of not the minor leagues, but like the entry level professionals to be more present in certain stages. I think, to me, like that, and I know that's very vague, but like, sort of, as we stage people through a process, giving more prominence to people that are developing, and more stages that are, a more prominent stage for those developmental players, I think is an important role in some of that as we move forward. And again, also not necessarily as we, keeping our legacy athletes around longer, and maybe, allowing them a process to gain access to stages or greater layers, and not have to go through every layer every year, might be a great look for the long term of the sport, right? I don't think that anybody's failed or not planned properly or put this together, because I think there's an evolution to it. I think that's a really good outlook longer term. Is, feeder tour, like, we look at other sports, it's like feeder tours, and, and how people evolve into gaining, cards for bigger tours, and how that works. Because essentially we're a tour system, right? And it's, and I think, Tia Claire Toomey, grinding in the open, every year. And I mean, I don't know, is that the answer? We'll see, and I think there's a lot of arguments to be had that, because of what CrossFit is as a community-based program, people participating in those things are important. I think there's maybe other ways that they can participate, and, we can give the spotlight to the next generation, and those evolving into the system that way as well. So, I mean, that's a big, high level, 10,000 foot theoretical look.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going in the right direction. but it's, and I think a lot of us are all pointed in that same direction, that there's, this is the start and there's more to come, and that the sport will continue to need to evolve,
CrossFit has always, at least 2018 and back, had a pretty robust group of sponsors and companies that wanted to put their money into it. Then everything happens with all the volatility that we've had the past couple of years, and maybe some sponsors are taking a sort of wait and see approach. But what's the sense that you get? You deal with these folks all the time. What's the sense that you're getting from them about where they think things are headed and their willingness to put money behind it?
Brands are excited. It's a lot of them have been sitting on the sidelines waiting to be back. It's funny, as we start to get ready for our events and talk to our partners, and then Wadapalooza being our big one. I haven't really seen a whole lot of apprehension. There's obviously been some people that got dinged through the last year, that you can't ignore that. So I think, some of the endemic brands, the smaller brands have, had a hard time, but they're still present and they're excited and they're trying to find ways to be back. And at the partner level, I mean, people are gritty and ready to go. It's been really refreshing. People are back. There's been no fall off on that side. If not anything, there's been evolution. People are forward investing. There's a new crop, as you can see, that are coming in, certainly on the CrossFit side, that have been waiting and, to be more involved. So it's exciting. It's really cool, honestly, because it was a big question mark. I think you guys had it. We all did, kind of where will we stand today when the stuff started to get back. And people are, brands are, putting budget against this in a big way, and they're bullish on the sport and the future of the sport. It's exciting. We're very fortunate. We're lucky, because it takes all of this stuff to make sense of it, right?
Last question I have, obviously most important. How's your fitness been?
Oh man, great question. I'm sore. Yeah, no, it's funny. We were laughing. We were lamenting about this yesterday. At the busier you get in fitness on our side, the business side, sometimes the less fit you get. But it's been okay. I put myself through this little burpee challenge this year, so I have something to do every day, and I've kept up with that.
It was 100 a day, right?
100 a day, which, by the way, people might look at that and be like, whatever. I break it up and stuff. It's becoming daunting. It's it's not, we don't necessarily build ourselves to do the same thing every day. But I'm all right. I would like to be more fit, but I'm still grinding on it. I had a fun time. I will tell you, I don't think I've had as much fun with the Open as I had this year in years. 3 weeks. The workouts were very, scaled almost. They were scalable. Anybody could do them. I thought this year was the Open nailed. I think they nailed it. I really do. 3 weeks is plenty. Every workout was approachable to some extent. The last workout got a little advanced, but whatever, I understand you needed a separator at the end of that too anyway. But I had a blast with it. So yeah, you know what? I'm still trying. I'm not as fit as you guys, but I'm working on it.
Well, I'm not as fit as Tommy. Yeah. If you see it wandering the streets, please call me. I'd like to. The final question I have for you, Matt, is that I know that there's still a lot of, we're not where we need to be yet with the sport, but there does seem to be a light at the end of the tunnel here with everything going on. What are the things that get you the most excited about where this whole ecosystem is heading?
I'm really most excited about the fact that, as an organization, the sport organization, CrossFit Games, team, that group is, being allowed and invested in to do things that they visualized for years now. There's, I think now, the 100% support behind the sport. Eric is bullish on it. I feel like listen, it's, I'm not going to sit on here and, this isn't like an anti-Greg thing, but Greg spoke the words that the sport wasn't important to him. Right. Mm-hmm. So you can't, that's the opposite now. And that, not cause everything else has always been there. People want to watch it. People want to do it. And, there's young people coming in trying to win it. And and it's being fully recognized globally by everybody. It's just such an incredible platform, and the accomplishment is undeniable by those who just observe sport globally. And now we have an ownership group that's all in on it, truly, on the sport. So that for the sport is a big deal, and I'm really excited about that. I'm still all in. You guys are. We're still here. We've taken our licks. I think that we're all tougher and better for it. And, having an ownership group that is 100% pointed in the north, that this sport will succeed and grow over the next 10, 20, and 30 years is really exciting.
Matt, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this. We always appreciate speaking with you. Best of luck with the West Coast Classic and the Granite Games, and fingers crossed that I will not only be seeing you at one of those events and Madison, but also in Miami for Wadapalooza.
You will. We'll do some burpees, buddy. I need some help.
All right. That's a deal right there. All right. Thanks, Matt. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, boys. Good to be with you.